And let's return now to the Middle East, where concerns are growing about an all-out war after 12 children and teenagers were killed at the weekend when a rocket fell on a football field in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. The attack led Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to return early from the United States to meet his cabinet, which has authorized him and his defense minister to decide when and how to retaliate. And we're just seeing that Benjamin Netanyahu has visited the site of that rocket attack in the Golan Heights. We're just hearing that. Well, let's talk now about this situation with H.A. Hellier. He's non-resident scholar at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Thank you very much for joining us. And just give us a sense, in your view, as to how quickly this situation could escalate. And of course, that is the big fear, that this could escalate into an all-out regional conflict.
So thank you for having me on your program. I think the reality is that for the past 10 months, there's been the concern that the law of unintended consequences could lead the region into a full-scale regional war. And at many points over the past 10 months, I think you've seen different actors be very reckless in retaliating against one another, but also underestimating how impossible it is to actually do, quote unquote, calculated escalations. The Israelis have made it very clear they are going to strike Lebanon. It will be soon. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the coming few hours, but it will be soon. And at the same time, they do not want a regional war because it's one that they're not prepared for. So they will retaliate, or they will claim that this is retaliation because we still don't know exactly what happened in the Golan Heights. But we do know that Israel will respond. And the question will be, can they respond in a way that isn't going to tumble out of control in terms of consequences and reprisals from Hezbollah? And I don't think we can be sure of that. I don't know what they have in mind or what's planned, but I do think it's an incredibly risky step that they are planning to undertake, as I said, very shortly.
You're saying it is very difficult to have a calculated escalation because of that law of unintended consequences. You can never be entirely sure what one action may lead to. For our viewers, if you would, just tell us a little bit more about the background to the Golan Heights, its strategic significance and the reason for the whole contentiousness around this part of the region.
So the Golan Heights is occupied Syrian territory. Israel invaded it in 1967 and has occupied it ever since, and declared it annexed some years later. I will say that more or less the entirety of the international community recognizes it as occupied territory. And I'm glad that the BBC continues to refer to it as the occupied Golan Heights, because indeed it is as occupied territory as Gaza, as the West Bank, as East Jerusalem, and the Sinai Peninsula until the peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. All of these were territories that were taken in 1967. It frankly doesn't serve at the moment a quote unquote strategic benefit. I mean, we've moved beyond that due to the advances in technology and so on. There are quite long-standing concerns around water and, connection to water supplies. But, this is all an inheritance from the 1967 war. You still have, of course, a large Druze, mainly Druze population in the Golan Heights, and they maintain quite strong connections to their Syrian identity. And it's also very peculiar to see how Hezbollah would have targeted them. There is an Israeli military installation in the Golan Heights, so it may be they were aimed at that.
Sorry to bring you to the end of your thought there, but we are out of time. H.A. Hellier from the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, thank you very much.